Wreaths Across America Radio connects millions of volunteers as America's radio station and a voice for America's veterans as we remember the fallen, honor those who serve, and teach the next generation the value of freedom. Michael W. Hale with you, and my next guest today on Wreaths Across America Radio is Sue Cunningham. And Sue's story is really fascinating. I'm looking forward to sharing it with you, and it's kind of her to share it with us, as Sue's story involves the military and so much more. Well, Sue, thank you for taking time out to share with us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Michael.
Well, I don't know where to begin, so I'll try to begin at the beginning, I guess I can say. I know from the information that's been shared with me that you come from a military family, a history of military, beginning with your dad. So I guess if we can use it affectionately, an Air Force brat, I guess we could say.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So tell us about that, about growing up in the military with a dad in the Air Force and some of the things you experienced during that time.
It was great. My father, after serving in World War II in Armored Corps and the 3rd Armored Division, he branch transferred to the Air Force and became a personnel officer. So in that capacity, he was able to kind of direct where we got to go. And a great assignment was in Paris during the time that SHAPE was in Paris. So I was from 9 to almost 12, and it was really impactful on my life, not only for the travel, but also military service and seeing different cultures and things like that. So I was always very proud of my dad that he did that and that we were afforded that opportunity to live overseas.
Wow, what a wonderful opportunity for a young person to experience Paris growing up and the other locations as well. But there is that life of the military child, Sue. There's some good things like that, and there's the challenges of moving and changing schools and making new friends and all that. So you certainly can relate to a military child, can't you?
That's right, yes. But when my dad retired from the Air Force when I was 12, so I had a rather stable junior high, senior high, college kind of home base. But when I married and had 3 Army brats, as it turns out, we also lived in Germany, and we had a bit more traveling when they were older than I had. So I feel like I had the best of the military brat situation. But when we tried to do the best we could with our kids, because we traveled a bit. We were transferred a bit more than my dad was.
Yeah, well, that brings me to part 2 in that you grew up in the military, you said through age 12, but then you decided to be in the military. So tell us how that came about, Sue.
Yes. Well, I feel like that having lived overseas, I really wanted to live in overseas again. And I also wanted to serve in the military, and I wanted to get my education. So those 3 things kind of came together. I was in college during Vietnam, and the Army had a program called the Army Student Dietitian Program. So they paid for my last 2 years of college, and then I was guaranteed a dietetic internship. So that was really great. I knew I wanted to be a dietitian. I didn't know really that term, maybe perhaps, but from the time I was 11, a friend of mine and I were eating dry Jell-O out of a box with a spoon, and her mother, we were 11, and her mother said, "Don't do that, girls. That'll cause diabetes." And I thought, how does eating Jell-O out of a box cause a disease called diabetes? So when I interviewed to enter the PhD program in epidemiology at the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston, that was the example that just came to my mind. They said, "Well, why? You're a registered dietitian. Why do you want to do this?" And so I said that was the reason why. And then also, why did you join the military? I said, well, I had such a favorable experience with the military that I just felt like it was a natural fit. And then because dietitians have about a 50% chance of getting an internship, I was guaranteed an internship with the Army. And Brooke Army Medical Center was just the best experience with the burn center, with all the research that was going on there, plus, of course, the patient care for Vietnam veterans. It was just a wonderful place to train as a dietitian. And you're treated as an officer in the military, not just kind of on a stipend and, a civilian, as I might say. But it was you were afforded honor and respect, and plus got top-notch training. So that's why it was just a win-win. So I told my husband, I met my husband third day in basic at the Medical Field Service School at Fort Sam Houston. And I said, we feel like the three best decisions of our lives was, number one, we're Christians and we're church strong believers. Number two, getting married and having our children. And number three was joining the Army, because that brought us together, plus the service that we were able to do for our great country.
Wow, it's amazing. I mean, this has a Lifetime movie written all over it, a Hallmark channel for sure. But the fact that you two met in the service as well, and both served, and your children got to be children of the military. And I understand that you retired as a colonel in the U.S. Army. How long did you serve, Sue?
Nearly 32 years.
Wow.
I had 6 years service as active duty, and then I had 26 in the reserve. So as my husband, who was active duty occupational therapist in the Army, as he moved around, as he was transferred around the country and around the world, I went and had, of course, with the children, and I would find a unit that would allow me to drill for them on the weekends and plus support the local hospital where my husband was assigned. So that worked out very well. It would have been much more difficult, I think, if I had been married to a line officer in the Army or a civilian, because so many times they're just kind of stay put at a certain place and perhaps don't have the opportunities for advancement that I was afforded. So I'm very thankful for that.
Did any of your children follow in your footsteps, military-wise?
No, they didn't. The oldest one married an Army service member, and the middle one was a little late getting an application in for a scholarship and was denied, and so she just gave it up. And our youngest son, he's in law enforcement, so he's the only one that is kind of quasi-military.
Right, he wears a uniform, right? So there we go.
Yes, that's right.
And he serves in a different way, which is commendable as well. Right. Now, as far as I understand, you have some grandchildren. Are they of age to go in the military yet, or are they still young?
Well, the oldest is 22, the youngest is 13, and no, they haven't expressed any interest in going into the military, which is, yeah.
It's almost like the family business, we like to nickname it around here. In some cases, it goes generation to generation to generation. So it's always curious just to see how that goes, especially as deep as it runs within your family. And speaking of it running deep, I understand you're also involved with the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution.
Yes, I'm so proud of that. I wish I had known about this earlier. I wish my mom and dad would have known about it, because I have all four of my grandparents' families came to this country in the 1600s. So I thought I have to have somebody who served. So I have several, but I've only proven one. Sometimes I have to have a deadline to say, get this done, Sue. But anyway, it's just amazing to read their stories. One, I was born a Daly, and he was a Green Mountain boy, David Daly, from Vermont. And then after the bear hunting population diminished in Vermont back in the 1700s, he moved to Ohio and built a log cabin in Athens, Ohio, again to shoot the bears there, I guess. But anyway, I'm just so proud of that. Every war my family has participated in, except for World War I. And I counterbalanced that with my husband's family. He had a great-grandfather who was a bugler during World War I. He enlisted at age 14 and became a bugler in World War I. So it's just like I love the meshing of our family's histories with military. Both our dads served in World War II. Daryl's dad in North Africa, into Italy, into Germany. My dad was in France, Germany, and the Czech Republic. He was actually military mayor of a little town in the Czech Republic after the liberation. Both dads served with great distinction in the military. So, and I'm so proud of the Daughters of the American Revolution. I wasn't in a sorority in college. I didn't know if I could afford it. So I didn't join, but I feel like it's my sorority. And I love the service focus, of course, the strong support for our veterans. It's just so wonderful to be able to serve those and to see ones with a Vietnam veteran hat on, and to recognize their service because it was so sad for so many of them when they came back from Vietnam. I love the way we support the veterans in all the different ways at the Health Science Center, Joint Base San Antonio, at the VA hospitals, the Fisher House, so many things. The Wreath Across America, of course, just wonderful. I'm so proud of the focus for veterans service and how proud the Daughters of the American Revolution are to be patriotic, to recite the pledge, to honor the flag. And I'm just so happy about that and to be associated with them.
DAR, such a wonderful organization, the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution. And as you said, Sue, huge supporters of our mission here at Wreaths Across America and so many other missions, and so much energy and camaraderie that comes out of DAR that we've been actually celebrating and honoring DAR for many years now and still are, as a matter of fact. So that's wonderful to hear. And you're, I understand, the George W. Kendall chapter there. Is that right?
Yes, in Bernie, Texas. Yes, okay. It's a German settled town, Bernie, Texas, in the Texas Hill Country. And we have a strong background of military service among our members, their families. And that's one reason why my husband and I decided to retire here, because almost every person that you come across has either served or their spouse served or their family served. And a real strong connection and honoring of our military service, and that's just real important to us. Our last assignment before we came here was, maybe I shouldn't mention the state, we were told during Desert Storm not to wear our uniforms into the city because we get spit on, and it's like, whoa, don't want that. Don't want to have that kind of communities, but we don't have that here, and I know that being said, that DAR units and veterans all over the country are perhaps getting some awakening of pride in our military and honoring our veterans. And I'm so happy for that. And the Wreaths Across America, I participated in not only supporting it financially, but also participated in setting the wreaths up. And it was at the San Antonio National, not Fort Sam Houston, but the San Antonio cemetery, and just to see those ancient graves and more recent ones, and to see how we were honoring them with a wreath and saying a prayer as we went along. It was just a very touching and it's very special service for me to do that. I just enjoyed it so much and felt very honored to be a part of that.
Well, thank you for your support of our mission here at Wreaths Across America and DAR, who honors our military, our veterans, and doing it including through what we do here at Wreaths Across America. So we're so appreciative of that and to be able to share these many stories. And we talked about your service. Let's talk a little bit about after the service. And I know throughout your years you've been involved with nutrition. You found that interest at a young age, eating powdered Jell-O of all things, you know. And when I was a kid, they didn't call it diabetes. They simply called it sugar. Do you remember that at all?
Actually, that mother said sugar diabetes.
Yes.
Said, don't do that, girls. You're going to get sugar diabetes. I thought, wow, how does that work?
Right.
So I've always had that interest. And so I actually, my mom was a realtor, and I was a realtor up for a couple of years up in Washington State before we moved to Texas. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll do that. Maybe, I don't know, I'm hitting midlife crisis. Maybe I'll go into real estate. But in Texas, the laws are, you have to practically have a couple of years of education to become a realtor. And I thought, that's what I'm going to do. And then that day I got a job in dietetics. So I stayed in dietetics. I did not go back to real estate, which I was not talented for at all. But I enjoyed my time. I have worked, because of being transferred around so much with my husband. I have worked in every area of dietetics and nutrition, except for school food service. That's the only one I didn't work in. But I did have a position at the Health Science Center here in San Antonio as a research dietitian, and then I went and taught at the dental school, first as a teaching assistant and then as a professor, and I retired as an associate professor. So along the way, I taught at the dental school, the medical school, the health sciences school. We had a dietetics program for a couple of years, and I taught allied health nutrition. I just enjoyed that so much. And I was able to use my military time to benefit that position. So that was very helpful. And again, another thing about Texas is they were so pro-military. So that was great. But I was honored to be selected as the dietetic educator of the year in 2012 for the state of Texas, and then 3 years later in 2015, I was selected to be the distinguished dietitian for the state of Texas. So it was just a culmination of all the things that I had done in my military career as a dietitian and also as a civilian at the Health Science Center. So culmination of a long time of interest and preparation to get to that point.
Again, I'm talking with Sue Cunningham. She's a retired U.S. Army colonel, and as you heard, as I understand it, you talked about education. You retired as an associate professor, so you've really had quite a varied life and career. And one thing I do want to talk about quickly is that transition, Sue, that we talk about often with veterans, from the service to the civilian life. How was that for you? Was it difficult after all those years, or did it kind of fall into place other than trying to be a realtor when it really wasn't your passion?
It actually fell into place that I was able to find a job easily as a civilian. And I understand that is really a big problem, especially for combat services and maybe combat service support for our veterans to find a position in the civilian life. And I'm so heartened by companies that do step forward and give preference to veterans for hiring, because I understand that is an issue. And we know that veteran suicide is a real troubling problem that we have. And, of course, that does, considering the combat positions and combat experience of our veterans, but just other professions that perhaps don't translate as well in the civilian world, that it's difficult for them. And then perhaps they're in a community that doesn't understand that unique experience that they've had. Some of the hardships, we were transferred every 1.5 to 4 years. But some of them just get transferred all the time, and it's so difficult for children. Our middle one kind of suffered from being pulled up in her 10th grade year from Washington to move to Texas, and she of all of the three kind of suffered. So they have those problems, plus perhaps not being able to connect to the civilian world. But in the medical professions, it's so much easier to translate to civilian positions. So I was blessed with that.
We talk a lot about military families and some of the challenges they face and the transition. And we often talk about women in the military. We celebrate women in the military all the time, including through the Military Women's Memorial and all the stories that are being shared through that. And just like you're sharing your story with us now and everything that happened from your young age and as a military child up through now and how it all transpired. So it's so great to be able to share these stories. And I was reading down through your list of accomplishments, and it would take me a long time to go through all you've accomplished. Sue, it'd probably take half the show here, but I congratulate you on all that you have accomplished, the awards you have been given, and how you have given back in so many different ways through your military service and through your professional career as well. So it is such an honor to have you on with us, Sue. And while we have the opportunity, before we begin to wrap things up here, any final thoughts or anything else you'd like to share with us while we have the time? I
feel like as a mentoring for young people, perhaps considering the military, perhaps considering a life of service or the DAR or volunteering with wonderful organizations like Reese Across America, that they just take a leap. They go ahead and do it. Perhaps it's not in their comfort zone to do this. Perhaps they kind of a hometown kind of person, and that can be from a big city or a small town. My husband's from a very small rural town in Iowa, 400 people, and he just, probably because of threats from the draft, he joined the Army Occupational Therapy program and went on to college and hither and yon, and the rest is history. But to take a chance to step out and to volunteer with wonderful organizations like Reese Across America, or find a lineage society or another military community faith-based organization where they can serve, take a leap for education too. I heard so many people tell me my first little boss in my high school job was, oh no, dietitian, no, women should only be nurses or teachers. And oh my gosh, joining the military. Oh my goodness, why would you want to do that? I wasn't afraid of it, but I know some people are. But I had such a wonderful background, a wonderful experience that it wasn't hard for me to do it. In fact, it probably would have been kind of funny if I hadn't done it. But I love to see ambition and drive in our young people to reach beyond, to get out of their comfort zone, so to speak. I hate cliches like that, but still to kind of reach out and see what else they can do, see what the world has to offer. I think that's the best advice or comment I might be able to make.
Yeah, well, I think that's great. Women who are serving and have served in the military often share some of these thoughts for younger girls and young women who may be listening as well, to know that is such an excellent option, and your life certainly portrays that. And you've had the opportunity to travel and live in so many different places, and just such a well-rounded life and career. And before we do wrap it up, we do want to remind listeners that you are a proud member of the DAR again, the National Society of Daughters of the American Revolution. And we want to encourage them to perhaps find a location near them, Sue, so maybe they find they have a patriot in their past, like you had some, and to get involved in that wonderful organization. So we've touched a lot of bases here, Sue, and they're all good ones. And so anyway, I appreciate you taking the time out to share with us, and hopefully we've covered everything you wanted to talk about, Sue, have we?
Oh, yeah. Okay. It's been great. It's been great. Thanks so much, Michael.
Well, Sue, thank you for your service in the military, for your family's service, and how you've made such a difference over the years in people's health and other situations that you've been involved with, including DAR. So we thank you, Sue. It's been such a pleasure to spend some time with you, and we will hopefully get to talk to you again sometime, okay?
That'd be great. That would be great, Michael. Be happy to do that.
All right, Sue. Thank you so much. Again, talking to Sue Cunningham. Sue, a U.S. Army colonel, retired, also grew up at least for 12 years of her life in the military with her dad, and she and her husband both serving, she and Daryl, in the military, and have made such a difference. And so it's been a pleasure to share her story and their story with you today on Wreaths Across America Radio. And as we mentioned, she also supports our mission through DAR, and we appreciate that. And we thank you for listening to Wreaths Across America Radio. We are America's radio station and a voice for America's veterans as we remember, honor, and teach. You'll find us on Facebook with programming information and more, along with our website, of course, which is wreathsacrossamerica.org/radio.